welcomes you to this online session. Greenworks Trust is a Mumbai-based organization working for nature conservation, and we strongly believe that education and awareness are very important. So during this lockdown time, we bring to you informative sessions about various topics. Our today's topic is Indian cicadas, and today's presenter is Mr. Vivek Sarkar. As a curious nature enthusiast, he have always found the faunal diversity starting from fishes to flying fox quite intriguing from his childhood. Among all of them, he has taken a special interest on lepidopterans, especially butterfly taxonomy and life history, for over a decade, and he still find it quite fascinating. From past few years, he has been completely occupied by the loud yet unknown world of cicadas, and presently he is pursuing PhD from North Orissa University on cicadas of Garo, Khasi, and Jayantiya hills of Meghalaya. He also works as a World Heritage Assistant in UNESCO's Category 2 Center of Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun. Thank you. So now I hand over the session to Mr. Vivek Sarkar.
Yeah, thank you, Savesh. Good afternoon, good evening, all. So, shall I start? Because I can still see people joining. So, do you want me to wait for another 5 minutes?
No, we can start. They can join.
All right, all right, all right. Okay. So, I don't know, there's quite a lot of participants, and I don't know, like what background they are from. So, I'll just start with a very basic. Okay. So, if any of you have any issues in understanding any of the terms or any phenomenon that I'm explaining, you're free to put it in the chat here, so that we'll attend you right after the session. Yeah. So, I'll just start. Is that okay? All right. So, okay. So basically, we are talking about a group, that is known for their sound making abilities, but despite one of the loudest member, it did not really receive much of the attention from the naturalists. Okay, so we'll come to it. We'll come to the part what was lacking, and how can we fill it up. But let's start with the very basic thing first. Yeah. So basically, cicadas, as we call them, are nothing but bugs. Okay, so they are something called hemipterans, which is all the true bugs. So they are very closely related to the pentatomid bug or the sting bug. Okay, and not only that, but also the leaf hoppers, plant hoppers, lantern flies, so on and so forth. Okay, but unlike any of the other members of the family Hemiptera, they cannot. They are the only one who can produce sound. Okay, of their own, and only the male produce sound. And the thing about the cicadas is that they are very simple organism with, like any most of the insects. They have three major body parts: head, body, and abdomen. Body is also called thorax, but here the thorax is more compound. Okay, thorax have three sections. Okay, and here you can see the body part of the cicadas. Okay, and as you know, like all other bugs, they don't have chewing type of mouth. Rather, they have piercing and sucking sort of mouth. And let's come to the head first. Yeah, here you cannot really see the piercing sort of mouth, but what you can see is a bulging structure at the tip of the head. Okay, it is something we call post-clipus. Okay, and the piercing type, perhaps you can see it on the left-hand side. So that is what we call rostrum. So that's the symbol of all true bugs. And now coming to the body part. Okay, this is what the body or the thorax looks like. It comprises of three parts. Okay, prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. And along with that, we have two pairs of wing or thoracic wing. Okay, now the wings are quite interesting. As you know, they have flight, but only the adult have the flight or the flying ability. And the wings are not only used for flying, but they are also used for signaling. Okay, for an example, you can see they are not as fascinating as butterflies, but nonetheless, they're quite varied. Okay, they have very clear wing, they have spotted wing, there are wings which are patches of brown just to masquerade themselves with a tree bark, or in few cases, as you can see here, the brightly yellow or the brightly red colored one, they are something called poisonous cicada or aposematic cicada. So this is to show their predator that, look, I'm poisonous and I don't want you to come near me. So this is more of a visual signaling, which is also termed as aposematic nature. Now, you guys also must have noticed that in the male cicada, in the lower part of the body, there is this clamp-like structure, right? So that is something which we call as operculum, okay? And apparently that also varied to great extent from species to species, from group to group. This is basically to cover their sound-producing organ or the timbal. Look, when it comes to sound, I'll emphasize it later, in detail. But here, this structure is basically to cover part of it, okay, part of the timbal, that sound producing structure. And many of the time, it just happens that people post cicada image, which is just one image, and they expect us to identify it. It's I'm sorry to tell you guys that it's not that simple. It's not that simple like butterflies or any other insect, where you largely depend on the wings. But in our case, in case of cicadas, we also depend on this character a lot. Okay, so if you have a photo of upper side and underside, it makes our work really, really easy. Yeah. And let's come to the abdomen part. This is the like abdomen of a male cicada that I'm showing. So here also you can see the operculum. Okay. Okay. Now this is there's hello. Yeah. So there is something else that we often like were asked about, like how do you differentiate male and female? Okay. So the first thing is male will always make sound when you catch them or when you go close. Okay. Female, they just don't have the organ to produce sound. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, they have the longer operculum, the males, because they have to cover the sound producing organ partially, and also they have to articulate sound. Okay, which is absolutely not needed in case of females. All right. And the third most important part, even whether making sound or not, that is if you look at the tip of the abdomen. Okay, in case of males, there is this small capsule-like structure or the bulging structure, that is what we call as pygophore. It's like an anchor. Okay, and in case of female, you see a piercing needle-like structure. Okay, that is the ovipositor. Okay, now the utility of this anchor-shaped genitalia in case of male is obviously for mating, but also it have the lock and key mechanism where like it actually grabs the female with this anchor. Okay, and in case of female, the genitalia is sheath-like along with a long ovipositor. The reason behind it is that the ovipositor actually pierce the tree or the branch or the stem, and they lay egg inside. So the eggs are endophytic. So the entire embryo stage happens, like develops inside the tree or branch or twig, and that is what it is used for. Now, when you come to the life cycle, cicadas are actually live dual life. People often speak about that. Butterflies. They talk about butterflies, which symbolizes like a great change, like from caterpillar to beautiful butterflies. But in case of cicada, it's the contrast is even more. Look, as you can see here, the egg is laid basically inside the plant, but after that they hatch and they go subterranean. They fall down on the ground and then they go beneath. Okay, they go underground. Okay, where they live a life for multiple years, really, really long time. As you know, like there are many cases where people talk about 13-year or 17-year cicadas. Okay, but you must have seen, like in Google cards, that Google News card. Nowadays this card is shown very regularly that massive brood of cicadas are about to emerge in America. So yes, those are cicadas that come out every 13 or 17 years, but we have a very different set of cicadas. Okay, so we have there is a particular group of cicada which comes out every year in a particular time of the year. Okay, they are called annual cicada, which most of us cicadas are. And there are cicadas which comes out after a long period, after a long gap. Okay, we the 13-year and 17-year cicadas belong to that group. But then again, when it comes to periodical cicada, India also have one. I'll come to that in my next slide. But before that, let's just talk generally about the life cycle. So as I was saying, life cycle, that initial stage or that larval stage or the nymphal stage is subterranean. They live beneath the ground. While doing that, they have to do a lot of digging because they are also host plant specific. Okay, they take sap from the root of a particular host plant till they come to their fifth instar, and once they come to their fifth instar, they come out, emerge, and then like the cycle continues. Now, while coming out from the ground and then closing, that is a very sensitive part. Okay, because at that time the cicada cannot fly because the wings are not totally developed. They can also run away. They cannot run away because like the body is also too soft. So they are basically vulnerable for attack from the insectivores. So to deal with that, they have developed over the period of time different strategies. For an example, the image that you can see, it's a cicada called eagle cicada. Okay, scientifically known as Cryptotympana. Okay, so here you can see it's emerging, and the emerging time is at night. Okay, because generally they can hide in the darkness. Okay, whereas there are other group of cicada, as I mentioned earlier, the poisonous cicada, like this one. This is called Balinta octonotata. Okay, bit funny name, but as you can see, the body, the major difference is that newly enclosed one here is more whitish and pale in color, whereas the other one, the Balinta, which is emerging in the daytime, is more red and orange and like more colorful. Again, they can afford to come out in the daytime because they are poisonous. Okay, they emit foul smell even when the juvenile bird who have no prior experience of how it tastes, which is quite distasteful. So just to deter them. Okay, so they can afford to come out at night. So these are different survival strategy. Now coming back to our periodical question part. Okay, but before I come to that, let's like talk about how do they emerge. So this is a fifth instar larva that just came out. Okay, and after coming out, what happens? There is a slit that is formed from the head to the thorax to the body. Okay, and from there, as you can see here, slowly the cicada comes out. Okay, and this process takes time and this is and the time is very much species specific thing. Okay, there are cicadas that like this entire process happens in a matter of 15 minutes that we have recorded. We have also recorded species which takes almost 45 minutes. Okay, but coming out just one part of it, but after that the major thing is to survive. Okay, this, as I said, is the most vulnerable time because they cannot run away, they cannot fly, they are just sitting ducks, well, sitting cicadas in that way, and ready food for the predators. So what do? They just sit it out, literally. Okay, in the most secure part, secure in the sense it has to be very stable. It should not be shaky. There should not be much of a wind, and it should not be visible. Okay, so they sit it out till the body dries up and hardens. And then like that also takes time. It takes to develop color itself, it takes 6 to 8 hours, and to stiffen up entirely so that they can fly and start calling, that takes almost a day. Okay, in few larger species it takes a couple of days to 3 days. All right, now coming to the study. Okay, the history and evolution of cicada study in India. Well, in most of the subjects or like practices in science, we have somebody called the father of that subject, right? So I think in case of cicada study, we can call William Lucas Distance as the father of Indian cicadas. Okay, he has served more than 30 years in Natural History Museum, and he have described more than 100. He described quite a lot of species, but more than 100 are still valid as of now. Okay, uh, but I have been wondering. I studied. I started studying cicadas like it has been almost 6-7 years. So it took a lot of like effort and time for me to get myself tuned to it. It's not very easy. It's not a go-to thing, but it takes time. It takes a lot of practice. But I was wondering, how did this man pull it off? In 30 years, getting a grasp of something entirely new from an entirely different continent, and not only from one continent. He have described cicadas from many. Okay, so I was wondering, how was he a genius or something? Apparently, he was a genius, no doubting that. But apart from that, he also took help in a way. There are many other people who have worked before him, but in fragments. Okay, so he was the person who consolidated and could see the clear picture when it comes to the Asian cicada. Not only Asian cicada, he also worked partially on the cicadas of like Africa and in Australia. Okay, and his work was a follow-up of people who have worked earlier before him. Okay, one name somehow which I did not put it here is Mr. Ole Branch. Okay, and why it is significant, I'll tell you. See, look, I work here in Wildlife Institute of India, and I am staying in Dehradun. There is another institute in Dehradun, no, which have been quite a famous one for a while. Okay, it's still famous. That is Forest Research Institute, FRI, which was earlier known as Indian Forest Research Institute, where Britishers and the forest officers were trained. So there was a person named Ole Branch. Okay, so he was appointed here, he was deputed here, and Ole Branch apparently described many of the western Himalayan cicadas. And till date, all these type specimens are kept at FRI. Okay, so next time when you come to Dehradun, perhaps you might need to visit their, insect collection museum. It's quite a, lot, and it's worth visiting. And okay, it might have started from this end, but after that there are many other people who followed it up. For an example, like E.T. Atkinson's also wrote his accounts on Indian cicadas. Okay, the second name is quite, I don't know, for people who are into odonet such as dragonfly and damselfly, it might come as a shock to them, because Fraser, the person, Frederick Charles Fraser, he is considered as a father of odonatology for India. Okay, he basically worked on the odonet, but in his expeditions in North Bengal, Northeast India, and Western Ghats, he did collect cicadas, at least those which like he just like came across. Okay, and he wrote 2 papers. Okay, one is on the cicadas of North Bengal, and the one is the cicadas of Western Ghats, which is still like quite a lot of account. And there is also like Kicaldi, who have wrote his accounts on Oriental cicadas. But this is more historical. Now coming to the part on recent time. Okay, speaking of FRI or Forest Research Institute, Dr. Ramnath Mathur, he consolidated all the collections of insects that was deposited in FRI from the British era. He consolidated everything and came up with a very elaborative report. Okay, in 1953. Apart from that, Zoological Survey of India (ZSI) has also been working, okay, in the documentation of regional biodiversity. And to my surprise, Meghalaya apparently was studied for cicadas. Okay, in late 80s and 90s, and they have come included it in the fauna of the state series. Okay, there is, and after that, Dr. Sudhane Hazong, okay, described the first periodical cicada from India. Okay, first one that we know of, and the only one that we know of as of now. Okay, that happened in 2013, and very recently, before working at Wildlife Institute, I have been working at National Center for Biological Sciences, NCBS, Bangalore, and there, I was working on a project called, which was looking at the global phylogeny of cicadas, and we had collaborators. So with all the published reports, whatever is published on Indian cicadas, we could consolidate it, and we came up with this piece of work where we have got a consolidated checklist of the entire Indian subcontinent. Okay, and this was a paper. This was nice, because it was very significant. Okay, and because till we did this work, we didn't really know, how many species we have, what is the, diversity we are dealing with. We just know that, there are a lot of them. But if you ask me what was the number, we didn't know. Okay, till we publish it. So turn out, we rank highest in the generic diversity of cicadas. There are 434. The number recently, like recently means maybe till last week, people are still working around the world, and the number is now 437. Okay, and India still have around 64, which is the highest generic diversity right after China. And currently we are dealing with 189 species, okay, of cicada. That is only from India and Bangladesh. Okay, so this was a major finding, one of our major findings. Okay, and to me somehow, well, it's a lot of number that I can tell you, because any time of the year, if you go, you will not even get to see, 50 cicadas at once in a single day. Okay, the distribution is more like temporal, okay, as well as spatial. Like, around the year, every month you'll be getting different cicada emerging in different part of the country. So yeah, obviously, so in that context, 189 looked quite awesome. But being a person who have worked in Odisha, parts of Western Ghats, and in Northeast India, and recently in Uttarakhand and part of North India, I wasn't convinced. Look, India is a mega diversity country with lot of ecosystem, array of biodiversity inhabiting in all those ecosystem. We have desert ecosystem, we have every possible sort of ecosystem, including the cold desert, the Deccan Plateau, the evergreen forest of Western Ghats, then continuity with biological hotspot of Indo-Burman biological hotspot, and then we have Himalayas. There's no way in all this habitat there would be only 189 species. At least I wasn't convinced. Okay, so I always wanted to work particularly in a place which I am familiar with, and also on a system or on a taxa which is not really easy to work with. It's kind of a personal challenge. Okay, so I decided that I'll be working on cicadas. Okay, right after this paper. So while doing that, I started my research. Okay, what do we have and what do we don't have? Okay, so I could fill few gaps. Okay, I could figure out few gaps which I'm presenting here. Okay, the major gap was our understanding in taxonomy. Okay, look, no denying this. Like the work that distant and all the Britishers or the people in history in past who have worked, those are even till date, those are piece of art. Okay, but it is a more genuine piece when you look at the time frame when they work. Okay, but in today's world, the roads are built, the technology had advanced, and we have all the privilege to work even better and push it even further. Okay, and in order to do that, I think we can cover more ground. So there's no doubt once we survey everything, we'll get much more clearer picture. Okay, with that agenda, I started my work. Okay, but I have also come across one major hurdle. Okay, see, it has been more than 100 years. One of the major work that has been published by Distant, the father of Indian cicadology. So since then it has been more than 100 years, and how come nobody picked it up? Okay, it's not natural. Okay, either the entire thing is a scam, so that people figured out like, oh look, it's not gonna happen, or maybe people were not interested enough, because the species might be very elusive, hard to find, you don't encounter it so much, so that has been a discouragement for the people to take it up. But in my experience, whenever I go to forest, especially in the month of April, May, June, there are cicadas everywhere, and I barely know what are those sounds. But when I think of it from a naturalist view, you get to hear it, but you can barely see it. I don't know how many of you can spot a cicada there. Let me tell you, there is a cicada right there, okay, on the log. But that's the thing, they are one of those insects which are very hard to see but very easy to hear. Okay, so the cicada, those who have spotted it, congratulations, you have a knack for it. Those who could not spot it, well, it's at the base of the tree. Okay, maybe few inches above. So if you have a close look, it will, from the side view, this is how it looks like. And in most of the books or illustrations or papers or even Facebook posts, this is how we see cicada. Okay, so when you go in the field, we expect something similar. Oh, we'll get to see it like this. So mind subconsciously, our mind develop a search engine in our mind, and we expect to see this, but we never get to see this, and it's like, oh, it's just too hard. Well, it's not because we have been looking at it in a wrong way. They are hello, yeah, so they are I agree, not easy to see, but they are certainly not you cannot miss them, because of their sound. Okay, so with that approach, I started my own study. Okay, I wanted to do see, I want to see it for myself, whether this thing can work, whether you can spot a cicada, like all the cicadas just only through sound, and then go to the visual cue. So because I was familiar with Meghalaya, I have worked earlier there on butterflies, so I thought it would be a good idea to explore all the part. And the second reason why I chose was because it's a last limit of Indo-Malayan biodiversity hotspot. So all this black square in the Meghalaya map that you are seeing basically were my study site, and the red square that you are seeing, and that was my field station, which was in Cherrapunji. It was easier for me to go east and west from here. And yeah, so, and the entire survey was done on a bike, which was I'm really grateful for. Okay, I had to pack everything. As I said, my priority was sound, so I have gone with all my preparation to record the cicada first, and then go for spotting it and then photographing it. Okay, and the results were very interesting. I mean, almost too good to be true, in my opinion. So far only 22 species of cicadas were recorded from Meghalaya. That was the report which was done by ZSI, as I was mentioning. And if you remember the person that I mentioned, Dr. Sudhanya Hazong, they have also worked on cicadas, okay, in Meghalaya. So consolidating their report, this is what came up with. There are 22 species which has already been recorded, but I have studied there for almost 9 months, one whole year, cicada year, and we have got I have got almost 72 species, okay, which was a little over 30% of entire cicada diversity of India, that is including Bangladesh. Okay, so now just imagine, from one tiny state, you get this kind of diversity. So, and that was enough to convince me, well, this is an untouched domain, and this is the methodology, and this is how you have to study cicadas. Okay, and it's unlike butterflies or odonets, they're very much season specific, and one cicada have only one peak in one annual peak. Okay, I'll come to that, I'll explain it later, what I'm and I'll emphasize it more in my later slides. But I was certain that there's a lot to be done on Indian cicadas. Okay, certainly I got quite a lot. Not only that, I also studied, as I said, it was a year-long study, so I could see two peaks here. Okay, one peak was in the month of May, which is now. Okay, and the second peak, which is pre-monsoon, by the way, and another peak was post-monsoon. Okay, you might not know this, but ask any of your friends who works on the acoustic of birds. Okay, cicada birds basically start their breeding call sometime in April, May. Okay, it depends on which part of India you are from, but yeah, March, April, May, in that time. So ask anyone who's working on bird acoustic. It's kind of nightmare for them, especially if they are in the forest of Northeast India, because of the cicada call, and every bird call overlaps with cicada call. Okay, and if you look at the diversity peak here in the month of May, this is also the time when the bird fledgling, they are about to go out of their nest. Yeah, so cicadas also provide lot of food. They are one of the main reason, main ecological attribute of cicadas is major part of the food chain. Okay, I'll come to that. Okay, part of, major part of my this presentation and the talk is about, the role of cicadas in our ecosystem. Okay, now coming to the next part, along with that, as I mentioned, like there were 44 additions to the Meghalaya. Okay, and 8 cicadas were new for Indian region. Not only that, we also had almost 11 species of cicadas which were new to science. Okay, I've just put few of them here. Okay, from different genus. And now coming to the part, that many of these new, whatever we call as new species or new record, are new for the people who just looking at it, But when it comes to the local people, it's not really new. For an example, the cicada that you are seeing here is the cicada that I mentioned, what Sudhanna Hazong, Dr. Sudhanna Hazong has described from Meghalaya. Okay, it was described from a district in Meghalaya, which is adjacent to Assam. It's called the Ribhoi district. So the name of the cicada is also, like named after the district. So this is Cremastica ribhoi. But the funny part is, as I mentioned, this is a a periodical cicada. So they comes out every 4 years. Okay, the emergence happens every 4 years. And last to last was in 2014. So the next one is 2018, which happened 2 years back, and the coming one would be in 2022. Okay. The funny part here is, can you like think of anything else that also coincides with this 3 year that I mentioned? Well, if you haven't, let me tell you, it's like Soccer World Cup. Yeah, 2014, then like 2018, and then 2022. So that's why, yes, thank you, Ashwati. So yes, this is the cicada which coincides with football, like World Cup. And I don't know if like football is a big thing in Northeast, man. It's almost like a religion. Okay, so that's why this cicada in local community also got a very popular name, World Cup cicada. Okay, so look, this is a cicada which got described in 2013. But let me tell you something. This phenomenon, this mass emergence, was happening, like from several years, thousands of years. Okay, and it is so eminent and it was so prominent, that like it influenced the local community, the tribes. Okay, the Khas, not only the Khasis but also the Ahum tribe, and also parts of like Garo tribe. Okay, what happens is that like the entire village goes out at night. Okay, the from the village elder, starting from the village elder to all the kids, and they collect the newly molten cicadas. Can anyone guess for what? It's it's for the consumption. Not only that, yes, not only that, but also like it has become a part of their folklore, their ritual, their culture, their tradition, and their cuisine. Okay, so this has been there. This traditional knowledge has been there always. It's just that we could not bridge it. And we could not like explore it and bring it in front of the world. All right. So that is where a lot of like gaps are there in the taxonomy part of it. The second most underappreciated till now gap was the acoustic part. Okay, for an example, there are many cicadas, many cicadas that have similar look but very different call, entirely different call on that matter. Okay, here I would want you all to see some videos, but like we are not really sure how the internet is gonna hold up. So I'm gonna just play the call, and I'll show you the photo of the cicada. Is that okay with you? All right. So as I said, I also studied, like the call of it. Okay, and basically I use little high-end gadgets to get the call. Okay, because I wanted to analyze and see, like how they are and what the nature of them. And in order to do that, I have found some amazing things. Okay, for an example, this cicada is called Platynomia operculata. Okay, and please, like somebody ping me if you can hear the call. I'm playing the call right now. All right. Here's the call. Okay. So this is the call, okay, of Platylemia operculata. So if you have seen, there is this quang, quang, quang sound. Okay, so this is one of the most common cicada in the hills of Northeast Asia, India, all the way from Arunachal, Nagaland to Sikkim. Okay, and many different culture, many different tribe have their own name for it. Well, this was recorded in Khasi Hills, and maybe due to this cicada, like the Khasi people. In general, in Khasi, the cicadas are called Nyong Kong Wang. Okay, it's because perhaps the call wang 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 wang. Okay, uh, so coming to the next cicada, like I have grown listening to this cicada. Okay, it's called Dunduvia Anandali, or the comb scraper. Okay, because of the sound which somewhat appears like a scraping of comb. Okay, here's the sound. Okay, so this is another cicada. Okay, it's quite common, and it have a very broad distribution all the way from parts of entire Northeast India, all the way from Sikkim to Arunachal, Nagaland, the lower elevation basically, or till mid elevation, all the way till Thailand, Myanmar, Borneo, and so on. Okay, there is another very interesting cicada. Apparently, it happens to be one of the largest. Okay, this is a cicada called Tosena melanopteryx or Tosena melanoptera. Okay, and this is a very different cicada and one of the largest, by the way. Okay, uh, this is a different in a way. There, see, you have seen first heard a call, which is like a little bit of buzzing and then quang quang in between. Then you heard the second one, which have some drum beating sound, and in between that comb scraping sound comes. Whereas in this cicada, it have three component of its call. Okay, I'm playing the call. Okay, just see whether you can make out all three components. Here it goes. I hope you guys could hear, like all three components. Okay, that first, growling initiation, then, in between there is a coin, and then, continuous buzzing at the end. Okay, so apparently, like all this call, you know, in a way influence the tribal culture in a great extent. Okay, so much so that every call led to a local name, species specific tribal name or common name in different parts of Northeast India. Not only that, different call also significance different cultural or ritual practices. For an example, the previous cicada that I've shown, comb scraper, whenever this cicada start calling, that's the time for the many communities in Northeast India to start their shifting cultivation. Okay, which is in Garo Hill also called as jhum cultivation. Okay, so this is a cicada which initiate the jhum cultivation in Garo Hills. Okay, so this cicada is called Phegol, okay, or Fodaning. All right, whereas this one is called Galwang. Okay, this is the time. What means, you have to basically, it's the time to yield your uh, like your whatever you have grown till now in your jhum cultivation, because this cicada is basically in a post monsoon they appear. Okay, so see, likewise, the acoustic part had lot of meaning. And not only that, as I was mentioning in the first slide, that there are cicadas which look almost identical, you know and but when you look at their call pattern, they're entirely different. Okay, for an example, this is a very interesting case, because you can see four cicada here. They look more or less same. Okay, and if you look at historically, all of this species has been categorized as Scydoptera spendidula. Okay, this is a cicada called Scydoptera spendidula. But when I was in the field and I was studying them, I found out that all of them have very different habitat preferences. Okay, very different habitat preferences. And more interestingly, that's a bit arbitrary, right? To call all these things are different species, because a species might have a broad range of habitat preferences. But when I recorded their call and analyzed, turn out all of them are very different. And it's an established fact that every species of cicada have a very distinct call, and they don't overlap with each other. So it was enough for me to to be convinced that all of these cicada that look same are actually four different species. And yeah, not only the scientific part, but also another thing that I would very much like to mention. Okay, now this is a cicada called Platyhelmia vibrans. The thing about it is that this is one of the very common cicada in Garo Hills. Okay, and this is a cicada which is also the peak of their activity is coincide with the peak of the jhum cultivation. Okay, the shifting cultivation. So in that's why the people, the ancestors of Garo people who have been working in the landscape could relate to this cicada so much that all the cicadas are named by after this cicada. So and the reason behind it is its call. Now if you look at the just hear the call very carefully. Okay, and try to mimic it with your own sound. What would be the sound called? Okay, here I'm playing. So I don't know about you guys. You guys can be very, creative with the sound. But if you ask me, the simple way to describe this sound is my jing 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 jing, my jing 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 jing. So in Garo, all the cicadas collectively they are called my jing jing. Okay, it's due to the call of this cicada, which is one of the most common cicadas in Garo Hills. So that's what acoustic features or the sounds also influence culture and ritual in a great extent, which I only got to know when I started studying cicadas in Meghalaya. Okay, uh, now coming to the third gap, which is gap in our understanding in the distribution of cicada. Okay, for the one of the major example that I can give you is the Macrosemia saturata. Okay, it's a cicada that has been described from India, but the type locality, like for the first time when the cicada was found, was labeled as Himalaya. Now we all know, it's a long place, okay, and we don't know which part of Himalaya. It might be Arunachal Pradesh, it might be Jammu and Kashmir, it might be Baltistan. We don't know. And the similar thing also happened with another species, which is Hapsa nicomache. Okay. Now this is even more interesting and more important, because see, when you describe a species, when you describe a genus, the genus also you have to describe from a particular species. So this genus Hapsa was also described from this species, Nicomacher. And to my surprise, the type locality, like the first time when this cicada was collected, it was mentioned as North India, which is even a bigger landscape. It can be anywhere. Okay, so this kind of distributional gap also, made it a big, difference, in exploring Indian diversity. But here, what my job as a World Heritage Assistant in UNESCO C2C, UNESCO Category 2 Center at Wildlife Institute of India, helped me to decode it. Okay, look, as you know, UNESCO also works majorly with the culture. Okay, and to understand culture, you need history. Okay, you need to explore different aspects of history, and that is, what I have learned after coming and joining here. So while working with history, it just came up that this species was, although it was described by Walker, but the specimen was collected by P.W. Mackinnon. Okay, I don't know how many of you know Mackinnon. Okay, he is a young British guy who also happened to be the one responsible for all the 33 hill stations in India. Okay, he was the person right after the Gorkha war in Dehradun Valley, very much here. He climbed the Mussoorie from one of the slope. Okay, and fell in love with a hill station, and also suggest British authority that look, our soldier here, in India, in colonial India, they're fighting with malaria, heat, snakes, wildlife, whatnot, and obviously, nonetheless, the rebels and so on. So they get tired, and it takes a lot of effort and resources to send them back to London, for recreation. Instead, how about we create our own hill station for our own recreation and to recover. So that is how the concept of hill station was basically approved by British authorities back then. So it was none other than P.W. Mackinnon. He did it, and this specimen was also collected by P.W. Mackinnon. So that's how I could connect somehow the dots here, and I could sense that it has to be somewhere from Dehradun Valley to Mussoorie. So when I came, this was all still in theory, and I didn't know whether I was right or wrong. And this I somehow figured it out in 2014. But in 2015, when I came to Dehradun, I was proven right. In both the cases. For an example, the first species was also collected by P.W. Mackinnon. The Macrosemia saturata. So we could rediscover this species in Mussoorie. The type locality was none other than Mussoorie. Okay. And so was the Hapsa Nicomacher that I was talking. The type locality, perhaps, it's unclear whether he have collected it from Mussoorie foothills or Dehradun, but nonetheless, we could rediscover it. Similarly, there is another species called Hapsa Durga. Okay, this species was known from Assam. Back there, colonial Assam means almost entire Northeast India. Okay, so we did not know where to look at. But then, I was doing a lot of survey in Eastern Ghats, Western Ghats, and in Northeast India. So I could point it out. It was apparently in present-day Assam-Meghalaya border, same Bibhoy district. Okay, we have also found it in parts of South Garo Hills, all the way till Orissa. Okay, so in the map, which is in pink and beige, you can see its distribution. So these all are the aspects which are helping us to map every species in India. To understand them better. But that's the least of it. Now comes the major, one of the major gap in our understanding of Indian cicadas, that what good they are for. If somebody asks you, or say like you really get interested to work on cicadas, but you need fun, so you have to justify why studying cicada. So let's come to the ecology part of it, right? What good they are for. So in Indian context, well, we are still on the darkness, but people have already studied quite a lot in outside, in US, in Australia, in other parts of the world. Turn out, okay, I'll come to that. But before that, how many of you have heard about the locust swarm coming? I'm sure many of you must have heard, because it's a very recent topic. as you know, part of our northwest India already getting infected, and now they are coming to us, central India. Delhi is the next hotspot said to be. So sure, it's a swarm, it's a major pest, okay, but it's a effect which happens uh, once in a while, you know. But in case of cicada, these are small bursts, okay, small bursts of population throughout the year, in different time of the year, and every year, okay. And as I have shown in my finding graph earlier, the maximum diversity is shown sometime between March to May, okay. This is also the time when, the bird fledgling are about to go out, okay. And not only that, this is a time, nesting time for many birds. So it has been studied outside that, insectivorous, uh, all the insectivorous gets a major boost to their survival due to the cicada emergence, okay. In certain thing, I thought, well, if it has already been established outside, like, in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, uh, where are we stand, where do we stand, like we have much greater diversity of insectivores as well. So then I understood that, if I really want to see their ecological role and, uh, their meaning, okay, and their ecological ecosystem services, it's essential for me to understand their ecology. And by definition, what we mean is, like the interaction, right, with other life form and the nature. So then I started actually documenting the insectivore who are depending, okay. In order to do that, as you can see here, there is a dragonfly feeding on the cicada. So I started, like with dragonfly. So I certainly, documented a lot of dragonflies. Not only that, I have also documented spiders, the, like different type in different habitat uh, throughout my field site. Okay, whenever I could get a cicada, I'll also check for, like their body part on their web, in case if there's some which has been trapped and eaten. Um, Another very, like obvious predator is the birds. As you can see, I don't know if you can see, on the left hand side there is a large meal tower feeding on a cicada. On the right hand side there's a mountain bulbul also feeding on cicada. Okay, so I have documented all this, like anecdotal field observation. Not only that, like in last 4 years, I have also started documenting the active feeding of insectivore mammals. Okay, active feeding not only on cicadas but also what all they eat. Okay, turn out majority of them depends on cicada because of the obvious deal. They call. So their presence is eminent, and these guys can just track it down. Okay, and not only that, I have also, documented the lizards and the frogs, okay, uh, in my field site, different size and different habitat of frogs, like, so because different frogs also depends on the cicadas of their own habitat, okay. For an example, in the bottom below you can see the bush frog, which is a very tiny frog. It's a Shillongensis, Philotus Shillongensis, which is a, like critically endangered frog. They also depend on, like very small cicadas. Whereas, like on the left hand side, you can see a gliding frog, twin spotted gliding frog. They depend on more like the canopy species, okay, of cicadas for their food, okay. And not only that, to my surprise, there are other, organisms also that feed on cicada, okay, which was no way on my radar, okay. For an example, fishes. Okay, it's not that the dead body comes to the water, like with the rain or something, and then they feed on it. No, not that. Uh, Hazong, while describing, his periodical cicada, has also explained that, he have noticed that there are cicadas who deliberately come to the water, for drinking, and then fall in the water. He could not explain, and neither I can explain why do they do it, but nonetheless they do it. Okay, and when they do it, and due to their surface tension, they get stuck on the water, the fishes feast on it. Okay, I have seen it firsthand. Okay, and so I thought it would be a good idea to even document the fishes of those pool, like who all get benefited from. And yeah, so I have documented all the insectivore, possible insectivore that I saw, like feeding on cicadas, just to connect the dots, like how important they are and who all they serve. Okay, But in order to do that, like while exploring their biology and their natural history, something came up as well, something even more concerning. Okay, for an example, we all know butterflies, right, and moths. I don't know if like they're very much host specific. And what I meant by host specific is that the larvae of them depends on a particular group of plants to feed on. Okay, and then like they feed, then they pupate and they become butterfly. Okay, and they do it on a particular group of plants, so that is called the host plant. Okay, and when the butterfly or moth is restricted to only a particular plant or a particular group of plant, they are called host specific. Okay, so which is also true in case of cicadas. Okay, this is a tiny cicada that I'm showing. I agree to many of you, it looks like a fly, which I also agree. This is a very interesting cicada called Mogania. Okay, and this is Mogania effecta. Okay, this is another very interesting cicada because they are polymorphic in nature. Okay, so one species have many color, as many as 13 color variation. Okay, and it's not like just one spot here and there. It's very much like entirely different cicada, entirely black, entirely green, entirely brown, black with brown, brown with black. You name it, all the combination, they are there. Okay, so this interesting cicada also like looks like fly, but flies like bee. Okay, so this is some interesting facts. And like in our study we found that this cicada is also host specific, and the host is ficus. Okay, similarly, as I was talking about Hapsa nicomache, the cicada that I have rediscovered here in Doon Valley, okay, is also a host specific cicada that depending largely on sal forest or sal tree. Okay, so their larvae would be beneath the sal tree. Okay, and in the month of May they emerge. This year they haven't emerged now, but the rain just started, so they will be emerging in this week. Okay, and similarly, there is another very interesting cicada. Okay, it's called Lahugara doharty. Okay, as you can like say, it has been named after Doherty. Okay, so William Doherty is a person, okay, who a British servant who have explored quite a lot in Northeast India, especially in Assam. So he collected one single specimen from Margarita, Assam, okay, in 1905. Okay, so it has been more than a 100 year that people did not find it. It just so happened that in 2014, okay, I have found this cicada. I have kind of rediscovered this cicada in part of North Bengal. Okay, in my own hometown, Kuch Bihar. Okay, so it's a very interesting story. So in 2014, so what I did, I took my vehicle. Okay, I did a crisscross sampling all the way from western part of North Bengal to the eastern part of North Bengal. And as you have seen the chicken neck of Indian map, which is that like North Bengal I'm talking about. So the topmost part is bordering with Bhutan, and lower part is bordering with Bangladesh. So it has been a zigzag, okay, from east to west and west to east and north to south, all the way from Bhutan border to Bangladesh border, back and forth. And I did do the mapping of this species in North Bengal. Turn out, like wherever I have spotted it, one thing was very much common. That is that the elephant nettle, the big leaf plant of Northeast Indian forest, which also cause a lot of itching and skin irritation, and along with the ground fern. Okay, in local we call it Hekia, which is actually a species of Diffisium. Okay, so this thing was common, and as we speak, a group of my friends who are now checking at their backyard, okay, who was also like discovered this species along with me. Pushpal Goswami is one of them. Right now, as we speak, he is in his backyard looking for the emergence. He recently, like 2 days back, first time, documented its emergence along with my other friend, Arnab. So they are now in their backyard looking for it. And not only that, like another thing was, so we concluded that their host plant is Diffisium. But what happened in 2014, right after I discovered their population in all over Northeast, North Bengal, uh, the first place, the very first place where I discovered it, it was a private property. It's in a middle of our town, Kuch Bihar. So because it was a private property, the owner decided, because he wanted to grow areca nut or betel nut. So he like cleaned that area, and trust me, like next year onward, there have been no emergence of this cicada. Okay, so we again did the survey just to see whether the emergence did not happen only in that patch or throughout the like North Bengal. Turn out the cicada emerged everywhere, but not in the place where the habitat was destructed. Okay, although in last 4 years, that place, like again the fern has been grown and the cicadas have come back. Okay, so that's a good thing. But like I have published my finding, and perhaps this was the first documented report of a local extinction. So guys, here is the thing: nobody study them. Okay, and their potential, they are like they are potential candidate to get extinct. Okay, even before they are discovered. Okay, so there's a term for it. Okay, the crisis of nameless extinction. Okay, it might just so happen that before we could even get them, they'll disappear. Okay, and cicadas, because like not, it's not very popular and not many people study them, there's a high chance like uh, they will become a victim of this. Okay, so the one way to like prevent it is documentation. Okay, and participation from the like nature naturalist, young naturalist, nature enthusiast, so on and so forth. Okay, so now the thing is, okay, say you get cicada. Okay, or you hear cicada, what do? How do you basically document them? And this is the another most frequent question that we get asked about. That, so first thing is, everybody have a mobile, right? The first thing is, whenever you get a cicada, you at least get to hear it, record it. Okay, that's the first thing. Once you record it, once you get a very clear recording, then perhaps you can go for photography, either with your phone or with your like camera. Either way, it's good enough. Okay, and now comes to the photography part of it. How do you photograph? Like most of the time, what happens is, as I mentioned earlier, people will just take one photograph and say like, oh look, this is what I have, it should be good enough to identify. Well, it's not. Okay, it's quite difficult in that way. So here I'm going to tell you, like how do you have to photograph it. Okay, so I'll give an example of a big cicada called Platyhelmia umbrata. Okay, it's a very common one in all over Northeast India. Okay, so the first thing and the most obvious thing, take a photo from the side. Okay, don't mind about the background. Background can be anything. Even you can, if you can catch it and hold it, that should be good enough. Okay, and then take it from the top. If possible, take it from the front. Okay, most importantly, okay, you have to take it from below. Okay, and I understand in nature it's not always possible, but if you are visiting a place again and again, as I mentioned, like they live for several years as a larvae, but when they become adult, they emerge in mass, but after that they die also in mass. So you will be getting like half dead or almost dead or almost like dead specimen on the floor of the forest at the end of their season. So you can just pick it up and take photos. That will largely help us to identify the species. And nonetheless, take also, when you are holding it anyway, take a photo from the side while holding it, a very like close photograph. That will help. Okay, now once you take the photograph and say like you send it to me or any of the like experts, they will identify it. Fine, that's fine. You can certainly write a paper to it, and well, a paper about your finding if it is significant enough, which I will really appreciate. And perhaps if any of you have something similar, I can guide you with. But there is also something that like you can contribute all your observation, your photographs, or your recording in a great extent. Okay, for even something bigger and greater. Okay, so the only way like the entire India cicada biodiversity can be documented, either like I'll definitely need my lifetime, and like it will take many more like me to dedicate their entire life to document it, which is a long shot. But what can be done is taken a help of citizen science program. Okay, so I don't know how many of you use or know about it, there is a like citizen science initiative by NCBS, which is in a form of like I found Indian Foundation for Butterflies. So they have it for almost all the taxa. Okay, cicadas are no exception. So this is a like homepage of Cicadas of India. So how it works is, even you have a photo or a recording or anything related to cicadas, you upload it here. Okay, and this is how it looks like, the uploading page. So you, if you don't know what cicada it is or what it is, you anyway upload. It's a peer-reviewed site. Okay, so there are many people who go through it. Okay, we basically identify your species. Okay, only, but in return, what you have to do is you have to write the date and the location. Okay, that is must. Okay, and once you do that, then we go through our database, we check it, we check with our literature, we check with everything, and after that we suggest you the identification. Sometimes it is possible. Okay, if it is well documented. Sometimes it is, if it is just one image, then we'll also leave you a comment, look, as of now it is not possible, but like as we get more data, we'll update it. Okay, it has also happened that people have uploaded it 4 years back and the species got identified maybe last week or so. Okay, but it takes time. Okay, but nonetheless, once it is a like it's a good effort. So once that happens, then like you have a complete picture. For an example, I'll take one example, which is Platypleura octogutata. Okay, they are one of the very few pan-India species. Okay, most of the Indian cicadas are restricted to certain habitat or certain region of our country, but this is one cicada which have one of the widest distribution. Okay, the entire Deccan Peninsula. Okay, all the way till Western India, like the desert part of the desert part. Here it comes all the way till Dehradun Valley, not any further, till Dehradun Valley, and in east it goes all the way till Bengal. Okay, perhaps Bangladesh as well. It's yet to be confirmed. So, but how do we know about all this data? Say you get this species in your backyard, you just like upload it. Okay, so we get one report. Likewise, like like one of you, if many people are uploading, then we get a species map and its distribution. Okay, not only the distribution, we also get the seasonality, because you are also uploading with the date. Okay, so here you can say from which all state it has been recorded, and like what all are the activity period. Okay, so it not only help like people like me, okay, who is working currently, but over the period of time, say like over the period of 10 years, if 100 people are doing it from like maybe 20 states, okay, then we have a solid database which not only serve me, but also like in future, if somebody want to do any further work of research and monitoring or related to global warming. For an example, right now, as you can see, they the activity starts in April and prolonged till July. If the like winter becomes shorter due to the global warming, and the like the weather pattern change, who knows? The activity might start from February or March, and it may like extend even further. We don't know. Too early to say. But if we have a data over the year, then it is help us to conclude our theory about global warming, about climate change. Not only that, even about like it help us to conserve the species in a long term. Okay, so that is where that is what the power of citizen science here. So now imagine similar sort of data if we can have for say like all 189 species. Well, it would be something. And right now in our website we have data for only 151 species, and we are still like it is open. So if you have some cicada images, I would definitely encourage you to like upload it. If you don't have it, it's still cool. You can go through our like this website, and you can just check the species, so that even when you go to the field, you know what you are looking for. Okay, it's not like it's taking time, because as I said, not many people are into cicadas, but slowly it is picking up. So if you want to contribute, that will be really cool. Okay, please do that. Yeah. Okay, so this is all about my presentation. I would also like to thank like all the people, my office people. Definitely like they helped a lot during the project, before the project, even now like when I do the data analysis and all. And apart from that, I definitely would like to thank Rufford Foundation. Well, as I know, as I told you, cicadas are not really a popular topic, so not many people knows about it. Okay, but nonetheless, Rufford Foundation uh, understood the importance of it, and supported me during the project. But whatever it is, like, it wouldn't have been possible with the help of the local, like my field assistants, all the people, like, who hosted me in different parts of Meghalaya, and like, all the support they provided. So thanks for all of them. And I'm especially, as I mentioned, thankful to Rafal. I'm very much grateful to Meghalaya Forest Department for permitting me to work there. I'm still in a way associated with them, and I like, I would be very happy if I continue to do that. And I'm also thankful to Wildlife Institute of India director and dean and registrar for hosting me here to my office. I'm like, really helpful, thankful to I Found Butterflies, Indian Foundation for Butterflies, for like, offering me to become a part of something this big. And I'm also one of the reviewer and editor of Cicadas of India website. And yeah, thank you, thanks pretty much. And nonetheless, special thanks to nature to the foundation. So thanks for this opportunity. I'm sure like, we'll be doing many more things in the future. So thank you. Yeah, so I'm up for questions now. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivek sir. That this was a very interesting
Yeah.
topic, and you explained it very well. So we'll take the question one by one. There are questions in the chat box. I also
Mhm.
request participants, if you have any question, please write them in the chat box so that we can neglect the disturbance in the background of the noise. So, sir, can we take the question?
Yes. So okay, I'm
Okay,
I'm
so
taking. I mean, shall I go with the chat first? Because there is
or
this
else
question coming and
I
coming and
can read
coming. Okay.
questions for you.
Okay, that would be significantly cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
that.
So we'll take the first question. When you record the cicada sound with the machine, so if two cicada or more than that is making sound in the area, so
Yeah.
what graph do
Yeah.
you get? Two different graph or one superimposed graph sound of
Listen.
two the cicada?
Listen. I'll tell you. I understand. It's a very like, common thing. It is mostly asked in this time. So the thing here is, you need to understand, why are you recording the sound. Okay. If it is recording for the solely for the identification purpose, if it is overlapping with your own, like, dog barking next to you or something like that, as long as you get to hear the cicada, it should be fine. Okay. Sorry. But like, if it is something where like, you want to analyze the call and you want to describe the call, in that case, you would want, like, good equipment. For an example, you would need something called monophonous microphone. Okay, where you can particularly focus. It's very much like a laser pointer, but instead of that light dot, where what you can do is, you can record the sound from a very narrow area, so that it cancel out like, all the surrounding sounds, and you exactly get to record the cigar. So I would like, request, if you are into like, recording sound, and if you want A1 recording, that is the way to go about it. Okay. But otherwise, if you just record generally, normally with your phone or with the sound recorder, it's good enough for identification. Okay. And don't worry, sometimes it also happens there are multiple cicada, okay, calling at once. Okay. So in that case also, it's fine. Okay. So that should not be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
And
we
if
have
you
another
have
question.
questions like,
Is there any
sorry, I'll just quickly say,
yeah.
I'll just quickly say, in case if you want guidance about like, what equipment to choose, like, what would be the good one, what is your budget, so if you ping me, perhaps like, mail me, then perhaps I can guide you. Yeah. Yeah, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So is there any species of cicada which are endangered?
Oh, endangered. Look, man, uh, endangered, you mean to say, in according to the IUCN status,
IUCN,
is
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let me tell you, like, how the IUCN status works. Okay. So when it comes to the IUCN status, first the evaluation has to be done, right? You do one thing randomly, because I'm asking you to do. Go to our website, select any of the cicada name, okay, scientific name, put it in that IUCN red list. the message that you'll get is, oh, it has not been evaluated. So this is the thing. There has been a huge gap, a gap of almost 100 years, more than 100 years actually, about the studying or the knowing the Indian cicadas. Okay, none of the cicadas forget evaluation. We don't even have a call library as of now. I was surprised to know that the call library that I am preparing, okay, from Garo Khasi Jaintia Hills, is apparently the first one from the country. Okay, and not also many people have the call library. The only study that I can relate to this one is what a person called Michael Bullard has done. Okay, he has studied more than 30 years the cicadas of Thailand. Okay, and then he came up with two brilliant books. Okay, the Cicadas of Thailand Volume 1 and Cicadas of Thailand Volume 2. Okay, these are classical work. Okay, and he is perhaps the like one of the significant person who have worked on the Indian cicadas. Okay, sorry, on the Asian cicadas. So when I look at the like the Indian context, we are in a black box. Okay, that's one way to look at it actually. I understand we are in a like in a abyss, but like of this darkness. But the thing here is, it's also an opportunity because nothing is done. Whatever you do would be the like first one anybody is doing. So it's again matter of perspective. Okay, so what do you want to look? You want to look at the darkness, or you want to look it as an opportunity? You can certainly like work on it. Just grab your phone, grab your camera, go at your like follow the sound, record it, take photographs, like document it properly, and like keep on documenting for several years, and you can publish it as your own work. So it is a quite significant opportunity. So yeah, I hope that explains
Yeah,
the
yeah,
question.
perfectly. Yes, perfectly. We'll go to next question. Can you talk about the sound making mechanism in cicadas?
Okay, so yeah, I have earlier included video in my presentation. Unfortunately, what happens that it's because of the streaming, it's not really clear. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just show a part of my that video so that like you can quickly it's easier for me to explain as well. So what happened, like in during my field work, I just happened to find a cicada which was half eaten by a juvenile squirrel. Okay, this cicada was aposematic, which means it was poisonous. So this juvenile squirrel did not know. It caught the cicada, chew on it, and then just threw it because obviously because it is distasteful and it also has foul smell. But when I got the cicada was still alive and it was calling. Okay, so I just recorded it. Okay, I'll pause the video. I'll pause the video in a particular time so that you can get to see the mechanism.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see the can you see the cicada here?
Yes, yes.
With the abdomen open?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So here the like the cicada is eaten. So the entire abdomen is eaten, and the structure that I was talking about is basically what is there at the like this end. Okay, I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yeah, the cursor is visible.
Yes, so wherever the cursor is, that is the organ. It is also called timbal. Okay, so this is in a very oversimplified manner. I can say it is very simple, like a blowhorn. Okay, and like the blowhorn in the old car or rickshaw, you need a physical mechanism to press it or to pump it, right? So the V-like muscle that you are seeing here, okay, is basically that hand that serves to blow that like that blowhorn. Okay, so these two set of muscles are basically like contract and then relax, which in order like in return produce the sound. Okay, it's a physical phenomenon, completely a physical phenomenon. Now if you look at it, the sound production in any organism in nature, okay, it's basically four groups. Okay, first and foremost the birds. Okay, followed by the anurans or the frogs and toads, right? Followed by the orthopterans, which is like cricket, then grasshoppers, and like bush crickets and all, and the cicadas. Okay, now you can always argue, well, I have also heard house lizard, the geckos, making noise. I have also heard, like mammals making noise, like, macaques, squirrels, and so on and so forth. It's true, but if you look at the, proportion of it, it's minute. In a forest orchestra, it's almost they stand nowhere. So basically, it's four group. Okay, and in this group, the entomofaunal group, which is the grasshoppers and crickets and cicadas, there is a basic difference. In case of grasshoppers, crickets, katydids, what happens is they make produce sounds through, like a mechanism called stridulation, which is like they basically produce sound with their wings or their legs. Okay, unlike cicadas. In case of cicadas, they have a specialized organ dedicated to only produce sound. Okay, if you look, the primary function of wings or legs in insect is basically locomotion, right? Producing sound is the secondary function. But when it comes to this timbal, the primary function of it is just to produce sound, and it is happen to be there only in males. Okay, this sound producing organ. Females do not have it; they can produce sound. But in few cases of females, what happens is with the like there is this buzzing sound of the male, but in between there are gaps, right? So the female respond in that gap with flickering their wings. So it's pretty much sounds like a tap, okay, because of the flickering of the wing. So that is a female response, okay. But whether in case of it is usually you cannot even hear them; they are so faint. But they have amazing perception to a sound. So the male and female both can perceive sound, and then they sometimes it depends. Sometimes in some cases female goes to the male. It's a species specific trait. In many cases, male approaches the female. But when it comes to the sound production, this is what actually produces the sound. Okay.
Okay.
So does it
Yeah.
clarify the doubt?
Yes. Okay. Then we have another question from Harshit. Is there any opportunity to work with you in next summer?
Sure. Actually, I was pretty much looking forward to work this summer. Okay. So, but now as you know, like it's. I don't think so. Like that would be the scenario anytime soon. So yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. It also depends. Like where I am. Completely depends on that, because this year, like my target was to work in the Western Himalayas, especially in the parts of Uttarakhand. Okay, starting from the India-Nepal border in the Dharsula side, all the way till Doon Valley here, okay, in the Ponta Sahib area and all. So that was my range. But next year I don't think so, how it gonna go. Hopefully, like it would be better. But yes, if things are normal, if I'm working, then certainly you can join. Okay, I can always use some extra hand. Okay, and not necessarily you have to work with me. What you can do is you can also like go solo, like work your own in your own background, like in your own backyard or the forest close to your house or wherever you are, and I can certainly guide you. Okay, that also is an in that way we basically divide the like India in many grids, and so you take care of your part completely and do it over the year. It is feasible. It is like most like pocket friendly way, and like it is value. It's basically value for time and effort. Okay, because you might not know like my backyard as well as you would know your backyard, right? So yeah, sure. I'm I'm open for suggestions on that, and looking forward to work with anyone who's interested in cicadas.
Great. So one question from Ojaswara Pathak. An ant would bite me, a bee will sting. Can cicada harm me in any way?
Well, I don't know. Like if you are present in that first 2-3 slides. So the thing is, they don't really have a biting sort of mouth. But like one argument can be, well, so like so is the mosquitoes. They also do not have biting type of mouth, but yet like they can. But the thing here is, look, they are obligatory sap feeder. Okay, this is also one of the major like ecological attribute of cicadas. They feed on plant sap, right? What if you look around, like what is the most naturally abundant resource is the plants, and there is not many organisms which are specialized to explore this. So cicadas act as a missing link between the insectivore community and the most abundant resource in nature, that is the plant sap. So they specialize to like suck the plant sap, okay, and then like those nutrient has been transferred to the insectivore community. So in that way They are very specialized. So that also brings to my, like addressing your question, which is, can it bite you? No way. Okay, unless like you are sitting very still, the cicada comes to you, okay, and mistaken you as a tree, okay, or a plant. Only in that case it can try to pierce. But as it, see, our blood also have a lot of salt, okay, but as it tastes the salt and all, usually they fly away. Okay, in one experiment, it's also very much like how abundant the resources are available. Okay, so we have found a trapped cicada which was trapped in a glass house in the NCBS library. Okay, so it was starved almost for a day, and I thought it will pass out. So it was quite desperate. So I kept it in a hand just to see whether like it will pierce my skin. It tried, it just tried. So it was just like the tip of the syringe, but right at the moment it will stop because maybe the salt or something triggered it, and it didn't really like harm me in any way. Okay, and that took a long time, almost 40-45 minutes. Okay, so you're good to go, no harm. Okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, one sec. There are
sure.
repetitive question. I am just filtering them out.
Mhm.
How many cicada species are there in central India, especially in Madhya Pradesh? Is there any data on that?
Yeah, I would recommend that you basically follow a 2016 paper. If you want, like you can just write cicadas of India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. Okay, and you will find it. It's available online. But the problem that you'll face is nothing is mentioned as Madhya Pradesh in the paper. Even many of the type locality and the locality is mentioned very vaguely as you won't believe if I tell you. Few of the type localities are mentioned as Hindustan. Okay, those are collected in 1860s or so. So Hindustan means what? Even like back then, part of like Afghanistan was also considered as Hindustan. So now addressing back to your question, well, is there a readily available checklist available? No. But if you look at the like the distribution and all, you will develop a fair idea like what all are there in Madhya Pradesh. So recently, I don't know, a friend of mine who is also my PhD guy, um, and like he has been a mentor for a while, who is now in Madhya Pradesh. He is a scientist in ZSI, okay, in Jabalpur. So he started looking at into the diversity there, okay, and the results are quite astonishing actually. Okay, so as of now, if you ask, is there a readily available checklist for cicadas in central India, especially Madhya Pradesh? Well, my answer to that would be no. But again, as I said, perhaps you can make one, and already like there are people from different parts of Madhya Pradesh, they are making it. Perhaps you should also start in your backyard.
Yeah. Sir, many participants are asking for your email ID or contact number. So how can I go ahead?
Okay, do you think like I should write it in the like chat as well?
Yeah, you.
Perhaps you can also share it.
Okay,
But
okay. I will share.
yeah, so I'll just write it in the mm, chat here.
Okay.
Okay, and G. All right.
Great. So
I
we'll
don't know if you have received it. Did you receive it?
let me check one sec. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's there.
yeah, I can see it here. So like you can contact me for anything regarding the like what lens you should use, what camera you should use, and like if you want to get really serious with the acoustic part of it, then what gadgets, what recorder, what microphone you should use, what headphone you should use. Yeah, I can perhaps like help you with that. It took me almost 7 years to like perfect it, and I know like what is value for money and what is the most effective methods or gadgets in the field. So I'm sure I can give you a crash course on that. Yeah. Okay, I can quickly see some question here which are like quite intriguing actually. This question is from Ashwati actually. From how far the cicada sound is audible. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me tell you something. Like their frequency also varies. Okay, quite a lot. They can be very low or they can be very, very high. Okay, as you know, like the very lower one, okay, which is almost 3000 hertz or so. Those are quite loud, but the sound doesn't travel too far. Okay, but if you look at the, you know, like the one with the higher frequency, those doesn't sound too much, but you can, you know, like hear them from really, really far. So I don't know if you have noticed, when I played the first song, okay, it was Platyomia operculata, okay, the quang 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 sound, right, right when that first quang was starting, there is one pook sound, okay. It, you know, like I'll upload a video perhaps on Facebook. If you are following me there, you can perhaps hear it. I'll try to upload it today. So right, that quick sound jo hai, you know, that whistling, very faint whistling sound, that is the peak. That is where the energy is most condensed in the call. Okay. So that can travel really, really far. For an example, in, I don't know how many of you have visited Meghalaya, especially Shillong or Cherrapunji. So Cherrapunji, you have valley, you know. So there is another hill on the, you know, like other side of the valley. You might not hear that entire call, but this condensed, you know, like this whistle, you will at least faintly would be able to hear the uh, faint, this, you know, high intensity, you know, like energy burst of the sound. So it travels quite a far. You can imagine, right? Travels almost a narrow valley. So yeah, they're quite loud in that way compared to their size. Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot more questions, but limited time. So I will
Yes.
take the last question, and then probably the others can mail you their questions, and probably you can answer them on
Yes.
the email. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so there was one question on: is there any relationship between cicadas and ants?
And yeah, uh, there are actually, okay. But if you are hoping a positive or reinforcing, you know, like kind of relationship, like many of the butterfly larva has, for an example, you know, and collect them, raise them, you know, they literally do farming for them. You know, they raise the butterfly larva, you know, and then the, you know, like the butterfly becomes, then no, they don't have any such care from ants. But what they do have is that, you know, the ants also are hunter gatherer type, right? So one of the major mortality is caused also by the ants, especially when they're emerging. Okay, when the cicadas just come out from their burrow, and you know, from the ground, and finding a high ground to, you know, to molt. At that time, as I said, they are vulnerable. So there are ant hunting parties of ants who catch them, kill them, and take them to their burrow for feasting. So yes, there is a relationship. It's called, you know, like the prey and the predator.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing the
Yeah.
valuable information about cicadas with us. I thank you on behalf of
Yes.
Greenworks Trust for this
My
lovely
pleasure.
session. I hope everyone must have
Yeah.
enjoyed the session and the question answer part after that. So we wish to bring more such sessions for you, of course, with various topics. So I request everyone to make a small
Mhm.
donation to our organization and support our nature education and awareness initiative. I will share the bank details are already been shared on the WhatsApp group. You can check them. Once again, thank you everyone for joining the session. Thank you, Vivek sir, for
Yeah.
taking the time and explaining the facts about cicadas to us. Thank you very much. Have a good day, all.
No problem. If anyone, if any of you are, you know, like interested and, you know, like want to work with me, or you want to start off your own, you are most welcome to ping me anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very
And
much, sir.
thank you again. You know,
Yeah.
thank
Have
you.
a good
Yeah.
day. Stay safe.
Yeah.